Greetings and welcome to America in Focus, powered by the Center Square. I am Dan McCaleb, executive editor of the Center Square Newswire service. Joining me again today is Casey Harper, the Center Square's Washington, D.C. bureau chief. Yet another top contender. I guess top contender is, we can qualify that here in a minute. But another big name entered the GOP race for president of the United States. Former Vice President Mike Pence, vice president under former President Donald Trump, is now entering the race, which makes it a pretty crowded field. Tell us about it?
Yeah, this is definitely getting more and more crowded, and Mike Pence is no fringe competitor. He is about 5 or 6% of the polling in the latest Morning Consult polling. Of course, we have been warned by recent memory to not put too much stock in polling, but regardless, fundraisers look at it, campaigners look at it, pollsters, of course, are updating these polls constantly. So I think it's worth looking at. And just to give you the lay of the land, Donald Trump, it changes. He's about 55% support in these polls. DeSantis is about 22, maybe 24% support. This Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. And then Mike Pence is coming in at 5 or 6 at third place. We've talked and written about other competitors like Larry Elder, who ran for governor of California unsuccessfully. He's a radio host, commentator. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, Vivek Ramaswamy, who's gone viral for some really articulate, CNN segments and other things. He has put his hat in the ring. Ramaswamy is actually even with Haley at about 4% support. And Tim Scott, who just announced he's running as well, is about 1% now.
U.S. Senator from South Carolina, Tim Scott. Yeah, good.
Correct. Now they have their own. There's always a disconnect between who people here in the where I'm based out of like and who the rest of America likes. And it's always really interesting, Dan, when I was talking to a Capitol Hill staffer the other day, and they're like, "Oh, I really like Tim Scott. He's great. I think he's the one. He's like the chosen one." And I just kind of laugh because it's every election cycle, the people who live in DC tell me pretty consistently the same people that they like and who they want to win. And then that's never the people who the rest of America actually likes. So that's been an interesting phenomenon. But when we could talk about the different strengths and weaknesses of these candidates or take it a different direction. But that's kind of the lay of the land. They all have a lot of ground to make up on Trump, or Trump has to make a pretty big mistake for them to pull ahead. And right now, DeSantis seems to have the best shot.
Trump, as you mentioned earlier, the huge front runner right now based on polling. Anyway, long way to go before the first primaries and of course, the Iowa caucus is the first in January of 2024. Trump, for months now, has been taking aim at Florida Governor DeSantis, who many say is Trump's chief rival here, calling him names and criticizing him now for his things that he did as governor when President Trump was president, praised DeSantis' work as governor of Florida. With Mike Pence now joining, what I like to see is how does the dynamic work between Trump and Pence in this campaign? Does Trump go all in on criticizing his former vice president, the person he picked to be his vice president? Of course, there was some conflict between them at the end after the 2020 election when Trump wanted Pence to overturn the election results, and Pence did not do that. One, is Trump going to go after Pence, do you think? And two, how is Pence going to defend himself?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because, Trump and DeSantis definitely have beef, as the kids would say, or Trump and Pence, not DeSantis. Of course, they do too. They have had conflict in the past, especially around January 6th. Trump has not necessarily gone after all his challengers. So he was really warm and welcoming to Tim Scott, actually. So that was interesting to see how he just blasted DeSantis, but he was really kind to Tim Scott when he announced. So that could be a function of just how strong or much of a threat Trump sees them to be. He's been going after DeSantis for a while, and the assumption has been because DeSantis is the only threat to Trump to really take him down. Pence is in third place, but his polling still isn't great, and he's definitely seen as less of a threat. It's hard to imagine Pence beating DeSantis and Trump right now, unless the landscape really changes. So I think if Pence starts to surge in the polls somehow, then you will see those attacks ramp up. If Pence fades into the mist kind of with his support, then I think you will see less and less of it. But I don't think Trump will be afraid to attack Pence at all. And you have to remember that one of these guys might end up being Trump's running mate. So, someone like Tim Scott, maybe he has him in mind, and that's why he's not attacking him. I think that would be a really strong running mate choice for Trump if Tim Scott was willing to do it. So there is that a secondary question of who would be a VP pick if Trump did win the general. I'm not sure that he's too worried about attacking a potential future VP pick, but it's definitely going to be in his mind.
So we've said it's already a crowded field, but we might not be done with candidates. Casey, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie,
that's right,
is looking to possibly announce as early as next week.
Yeah, he's expected to announce as well. Of course, he is known for that kind of Trump-esque tough guy style of to say it like it is thing. It's kind of how he's built his brand. But he very much became I don't know what the word is to say, but he really was doing Trump's bidding in the Trump administration for a while there. And it was really in some ways mocked for how he did that. But so he was really a big, on Trump's team for sure. And he's going to announce, he will definitely spice up these debates. And that's the thing to watch for. I believe the first Republican debate is in August. Democrats aren't having any debates, but the first Republican debate, I believe, is in August. And that is going to be the biggest chance to really shape things up. Trump is hit or miss at these debates. I've watched all of them. Sometimes he does well, but he's not always great. He's not consistently good. DeSantis is good with the facts, but he can be sometimes kind of a little flat. Christie is going to be really fiery, but is he actually relevant? Pence is also can be flat. Vivek Ramaswamy is really maybe the best rhetorician of them all, but he doesn't have the poll numbers yet or the government experience, though who knows if that matters to Republican voters. So it'll definitely be an interesting debate to watch here towards the end of the summer. And not necessarily all of them will qualify for it, but it'll definitely be interesting to watch.
Rhetorician, Casey, I'm going to have to look that word up.
That's the SAT word. I know you didn't pass the SAT.
Because there's really not a pass-fail when it comes to the SATs, Casey, unless something's dramatically changed since I took the SATs. But
yeah, it's not on stone tablets anymore. That's a big change. Yeah.
Nice one. I'll give you that one, Casey. Yeah. We are out of time. Of course, the presidential campaign, particularly on the GOP side, is going to get hotter and heavier here as the weeks go by and we get closer to those first primaries. Thank you for your insight. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com. For Casey Harper, I'm Dan McCaleb. Please subscribe, and thank you for listening.